Good morning, everybody. John Swickler here for GAI Insights with Gen AI News Briefing. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. If you want the articles, go to gaiinsights.com/articles. Today we have Vivek. Welcome back, Vivek. Great to have you. Ankash, Paul, Luda, and myself. Interesting day today. Everything from analysis of pricing models up through a blockbuster announcement by or drop of a model by the Chinese. So lots to get into today. Akash, if you get us the first article, please.
Sure, thanks, Sean. So the first one that we have for today comes from MIT Tech Review, and it talks about the hidden costs of coding with Gen AI.
Yeah, it seems to me a rediscovery of some stuff that has been known for a long time, that creating one module is not the same as creating production software. But let's see, who do you have on this one this morning?
I am on it.
Oh, you're on it. Very good. Thank you. Go for it.
Okay, so this is a well-articulated, very short read about how AI can be really dangerous when non-checked, the output of AI coding. So if in the hands of the junior programmer, layered on top of the very complex existing infrastructure, it can create more havoc than it's worth. So what the article warns about, and it really is true, that this type of without thinking, throwing it on top of things can create more technical dependencies and interdependencies than then need to be checked and rechecked. So I think it is some way important to essential, because every company has technical debt, has complex infrastructures already, so they have to be aware of it. And the article puts out a couple of pretty common sense type of best practices of what you should watch out for. So important to essential, John, for me.
Okay, on the fence between I and E. Vivek, what were you on this?
I was in the opposite direction. I was optional for this article. I think the thesis here is that, hey, today's productivity gains can become tomorrow's technical debt and competitive disadvantage. But I think given where we are in this generative AI journey, especially in our software development, there's this ability to scale software development on these low use cases, and having more developers within the organization because of using these tools actually offsets the disadvantage. I think we already incurred technical debt, right, from legacy software development cycles around, they said $2.4 trillion is what US's technical debt is. So can we actually start thinking about a different way to do this, right? Fungible apps. And then we'll kind of review that article in a couple articles later, the TELUS article. But that's where my position is. I think this is obvious, like to Luda's point, this is very obvious that, hey, use it for prototypes right now. But we also should be very cognizant that these technologies are getting better and better at software development, so they will address those issues in the near future. So yeah, I would keep the leaders away from this type of thinking right now, at least.
The thought police from Vivek. We want to keep leaders away from this kind of thinking.
I like the
Paul, go ahead.
We'll spur up a little bit. I think this is like, don't eat 4 boxes of donut or ho-hos for breakfast. Who's slapping up code and putting in production? Who in the hell's running dev shops like that, Vivek? The tech leaders should be shot for that. I understand tech debt as a trade-off, but are we really slopping in production code that's from junior engineers that hasn't been coded? Jesus Christ.
I don't know, Paul. You can't tell, actually. If you think about it, here's a piece of code. It has been tested. It works. It's not slapping. It's putting in a piece of code that was generated by a junior developer with or without necessarily code review. But see, here's what happens. And I am a software developer that worked on very complex systems like a compiler, right? When you put in new piece of code and don't generate, so you are not aware where the capabilities are, where the dependencies are necessarily. You don't put them out and put tests to validate that you haven't broken anything. That is a recipe for disaster.
But
So
isn't that a testing breakdown process? That's a process
it's
breakdown.
a process breakdown. But
But
so, yeah. But so what this article says, and I agree with Vivek, it's sort of kind of obvious, but I don't think we are really necessarily cognizant of it. It's these dependencies, I am absolutely sure, very sure, are not being surfaced and defined. So that's where the danger is.
So a good reminder not to eat ho-hos for breakfast.
Exactly.
Oh gosh, where are you?
I was optional on this one, John. I think it lays out quite obvious points, and we have discussed this before as well. So optional on this one.
All right, sorry, Luda. Looks like we're going optional on this guy.
Okay.
State of the obvious. Okay. Next time, Coach.
Okay, moving on to the next one, and this comes from VentureBeat and talks about DeepSeek v3.1, which might be the most powerful OpenAI yet.
Yeah, well, again, going back to for those who are interested, we have a point of view on America versus China. I think this is a huge announcement. But let's see. Let us give the lead commentator, and just trying to prejudice the witness here, Vivek. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this an important given that there's a couple reasons, right? So just let me go through what DeepSeek has released. DeepSeek uh, version 3.1, and this is a hybrid model that does both thinking and non-thinking mode, similar to GPT-5 and some of the other more recent Claude models as well. And this tool, at least the thesis of the article, is that okay, this is a massive shift, similar to what you guys have been discussing for the last few weeks. Is like a technical, economic disruption, geopolitical. There's a lot of other aspects to this, and it's a very strategic timing and when the release is right after release. But the reason why I gave this an important, not an essential, is because I think we are now starting to see where memory becoming essential as part of the model's architecture, and with consumer space at least, right? In enterprise, yes, there's a cost savings associated with this really highly functional model, but from a consumer space, this is the model memory and things, they're just not going to be incorporated. And those models, especially like OpenAI models, will start having a much bigger lead. That is my hypothesis, but we'll see what happens. So that's where I'm kind of was between important and essential, but I landed on that point. Of course, it's deep.
All right. On the fence here, Coach.
I was essential on this one, John. I think it sort of continues our debate about Chinese models sort of crossing the threshold in terms of performance each time they release something new. And this model, particularly, this does a good job compared to the latest Anthropic model, and it's many times cheaper as well. And I think from an enterprise perspective, anything which is, let's say, even 10x cheaper compared to what the closed models are offering, it induces millions of savings, right? So definitely essential for an AI leader to know about this.
All right, we get essential from Ankash. What do you think here, Paul?
Well, I mean, it might be better. It's a product announcement. You know, I think certainly important. I mean, let's be really clear. The whole thing that started deep reasoning models was DeepSeek dropped last December here. That put the whole world on notice that OpenAI is not as nearly special as they think. I think the second thing here is this is again showing that Chinese models are kicking the living crap out of Zuckerberg, who's nowhere to be found, who spent billions of dollars on talent and chips things here and is getting outplayed with a hyper thing here. So I think from that standpoint, the trend needs to be on it. I think this announcement, I mean, I think it's a product announcement. It is massive. The 650 billion tokens is certainly impressive. So important.
Amazing. Yeah, what do you think, Luna?
Essential. Essential. It's the developer adoption that's important. And what we're seeing is really massive commoditization of the models. And they're becoming cheaper, better, faster, 68% faster, 68%. So you can't ignore that. And so for me, it's essential, and it's not. It's developers' adoption. Many developers have tested it, Paul, and they're reporting the differences on major benchmarks. So I think it's another kick. So I think it's essential to know.
And literally keep going with that. I mean, we saw DeepSeek Who last November to DeepSeek Contender a year from now. It could look very different.
Right. And remember, they are on the every month they're releasing something. So it is a prelude to probably DeepSeek 4, right? I don't know what they have in store there. So it is absolutely for executives to watch. Moreover, use, right? They will use it because it gives them low latency. It gives them performance. I mean, they have to know about it.
But you're using a trusted hyperscaler.
Yeah.
Premise.
Yeah, not directly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super essential on this one. I understand it's a product announcement, but think of the product. I mean, this is the leading open source thing. It's beating the proprietary models. This is at the center of the geopolitical and commercial access. I mean, this is communism at its best, right? They're tripling down on open source, which is fundamentally communist enterprise and wonderful communist enterprise. And it's the government. This reminds me of when the Russians were doing their the cost effectiveness of this from a geopolitical perspective for China is unbelievable. The Europeans are building their models. The South Americans are building their models into their products and services. The Americans are pushing on price. Also, and I think this article deals with it lightly, is you're getting much more geopolitical certainty from China than you are from the U.S. in terms of policy and using their models and so forth. So it's if I'm a European, I'm no question I'm using American models some of the time, but the Chinese models are part of my plan. So I think this is absolutely essential, whether you're in a product company or a service company, whatever you're in. So anyway.
And John, from a rating consistency, I think we've also had OpenAI announcements essential because we said they're a leader here. So I think we're essentially Luda saying this is the leader default that we're sorting to on the open source side. So you cannot walk down the executive hall and not be aware of the leading open source model that's happening.
Yeah,
absolutely. And but the other thing is, by the way, I want to say that all the stuff they say about how much it costs to do the models and all that other stuff and what's whether or not the spyware and all that other stuff, I take all that stuff. I don't believe any of that. I don't believe any of the training costs or any of that stuff. So I'm not focused on that, because those I think could be subsidized, lied about. They could be spending billions. I don't really care. The fact is that the end consumer is using these models and they're available. So from me, I'm not worried that, hey, they've found some holy grail of how to do this better and cheaper. I don't care about that. I'm talking about the in the marketplace.
Hang on, John. So I totally agree with you on the cost. Are you also saying that the consumer B2C should not worry about data going into China?
No,
you said surveillance. Yeah.
Look, I think the Americans for many years successfully used our software and telecommunications infrastructure to really influence a lot of the top end of the free world, right? The Chinese now have their first ever entrant, and the Russians were never able to do this, right? The Russians the Russians dominated in space, and then we caught up, and they're fantastic at subs and planes and low-end weapons manufacturer did a heck of a job. What's that? What?
No, they're not. But go ahead. Come
on. Sales. I mean, the performance statistics on their planes are amazing.
Yeah, I know.
And the subs, they don't have as much shielding and stuff. I talked to a bunch of sub commanders. Anyway, but whatever. Pretty good. But the Chinese here, we've got this is the future, and they are coming in with a full, not only a full set of models and capabilities for the enterprise all the way down to the phone, but in addition, unlike the United States, they are vertically integrated into all the parts of the physical AI, the actuators, the motors. It's just the drone technology that's central to military-industrial complex right now. This is a big deal.
But again, just want to be more precise on the recommendations. So, Luda, I think we're saying, just to be consistent, is that if you want to use this model inside your premise or a trusted thing, fine. Don't let your employees go to the B2C model out there where the data clearly goes to China. There's terms of uses. We can use your B2C data wherever we want to. And John, you said surveillance.
Still dangers of sending, certainly, Paul. There's still dangers of sending data there. So, yeah.
There's no question about that. But remember, American consumer behavior, I don't know how many TikTok users there are, but they don't care about that stuff. So I think you're going to get.
John, so what's the recommendation, though?
Recommendation is to stay away from it. But I'm telling you, people are going to go around it and use it because it's cheap and available.
No, but what Paul is arguing, John, is in the enterprise environment. Don't bring those models in and use them on your own. That's what he's saying, where the leakage of enterprise data, that can happen.
Well, and I think that is that. And it's also, are we going to be looking at a year from now where DeepSeek is a TikTok equivalent on this, where all the students and nobody who wants to pay the $20 a month now uses the free version?
Right.
And I don't care. So we have a societal risk here and a country risk here, but
no, Paul. But that's where I kind of disagree. That I think the new vector that's forming is around memory, and that we've built for the last 2.5, 3 years the relationship with the AI that's going to be context for future AI. Right. So that's where I think in the consumer space, I agree with you guys all completely on the enterprise space, but in consumer space, I'm not sure. Because there's computer use, there's so many other.
Yeah, they will use it. They will use it, Paul. They will use it.
No, but I was saying, so the memory is a switching cost buildup over time. So if we have 100 million Americans get really comfortable with DeepSeek consumer B2C tomorrow,
right,
or next year, that memory may make it even more stickier over there.
No, I agree with Vivek that it's going to be a huge issue. Yeah. So just to be clear on the recommendation, I would say, look, don't use the Chinese models, even if they're hosted locally, because I think it's going to take a while to figure out if there is, in fact, even if you have it hosted on an AWS and they say they've done a security review, I think it's going to take a while to figure that out. But I think the reality is that people are going to start doing it. And so you're going to have to start thinking about a hybrid security architecture where if you're not doing it, some of your suppliers might, or if you're a physical product company, you're going to have questions about what models are built into the things that you're getting. It's going to be complex.
So essential, right? Essential.
Chinese models and legal forcing companies to swap out models. Yes, I completely agree, Kevin. Our volatile policy is causing real competitive issues for our companies. Our being American. Okay, we spent a ton of time on this. We're going to go faster through the rest. Ankash, next.
Okay, the next one is a case study which comes from AWS and talks about how Infosys built a GenAI solution to process oil and gas drilling data with Amazon Bedrock.
Yeah, very extensive study here on an incredibly useful thing. What do you think, Akash?
John, I think this is an essential one coming from AWS. So it's basically a RAG-based case study where they are doing it on top of Amazon Bedrock and Infosys Topaz, and they are doing it on oil and gas related documents such as completion reports, drilling logs, various kind of diagrams, and they share it in quite detail what they are doing, what they have done, which tools they have used, and there is a lot of information on financial impact as well. So I think it has all the elements of an essential case study.
All right, essential. I'm essential as well. Luda, where are you on this one?
Yeah, advanced RAG is becoming a feature. So this is not the first article, different angle and good best practices here. So I think it is important because it's a multimodal, it's complex data, it's all that businesses will absolutely need. So it's a next step in RAG, essential.
Yeah, essential, Paul.
Great. Essential.
All right. Essential, Vivek, or
Yeah,
essential?
essential, 100%. Yeah.
All right, essential it is. All right, tell us, boost workplace innovation with Claude. I wish Claude would, the folks in Anthropic would read some AWS case studies. Anyway, go ahead, Anka.
Yeah, as John mentioned, this one comes from Anthropic and talks about how TELUS is boosting workplace innovation with Claude.
Yeah, what did you think, Vivek?
Yeah, it was between important and essential. It's scaling to the entire workflow force of 57,000 employees. They've developed 13,000 custom AI solutions, a lot of 90 million impact from 47 large-scale implementations. This is how the new age enterprise should be working, right? This is a great example of incorporating AI and Gen AI into the entire DNA of the company. So I was between all, I think there's clear productivity gains, and there are a lot of focuses on software development, and we know that is a very hot use case. So that's where the only reason I was kind of leaning towards important, because it does not sure if it scales completely to all the other use cases.
Yeah, TELUS, an interesting Canadian company, right? They also do health, and they've got some interesting verticals. What do you think here, Luna?
Yeah, I think we reviewed a Goda case where they started with a hackathon and created a culture that delivered quite a bit of AI stuff in very important performance sections. So here's another case. I think we can't have enough of those. So important for me as well.
All righty, Paul.
Great.
All right, Anka.
Important, John.
All right, important it is. Next.
Okay, the next one is a research paper which comes from Z.ai, and it talks about computer RL scaling end-to-end online reinforcement learning for computer use agents.
Yeah, I was going to give this thing an optional. Very interesting, though. Important. Important area to watch. So they're creating the architecture for interacting with end user devices, and in terms of completion rates against the benchmark, they're in about 40. They're in the low to mid 40s right now. But what I thought was interesting about this contribution from the Chinese, and again, the Chinese are really going after architecture scalability, research, publishing like crazy. I mean, for somebody who's setting, if you have someone who is setting long-term IT architecture strategy in your organization, like some of the big banks have, or whatever, you would want them to read this, because the notion of where this is going in terms of end user automation, they do an interesting combination of reinforcement learning and human directed feedback, so that they don't have entropic collapse when they do the training. So it's clever. It's well architected for a complex set of domains. The reinforcement learning plus human feedback combo is interesting, and they can do it on a decentralized basis. So you can imagine, let's say you're Pfizer or something like that, and you're a global company, and you want to be able to have reinforcement learning happening in different countries, and then coalescing that up into coherence across the intelligence platform. One could see their way to that kind of implementation. I'd be curious if you agree with that, in the future. But for today, I give it an optional. So, Vivek, what do you think?
Yeah, I was at optional as well for a couple other reasons. Is that we don't know if this is going to be the computer use is going to be the ultimate use case with Gen AI. I think it's going to be more, there are substitutes like MCP and A2A, where computers are doing the work in the background and agentic orchestration. So that's some of the reasons why I was still I think this is an emerging field, definitely worth keeping an eye on, especially around computer use, but overall optional. It's just too detailed for AI reader.
Okay, I got two for optional. Anka.
Optional, John.
Luna?
Optional, but I want to point out that what they are doing, they're starting to disrupt of how user interfaces are created.
Absolutely.
So they are they essentially saying, look, we currently try to mimic the human behavior, and that's why the test cases and the data is all very laborious, how humans define it. Let's put it on its head. Let's AI define those interfaces. Let's actually optimize it, and they do a good job. So the UI space and automating the simple tasks that you're doing will become AI, and that's the first step to it. So, but optional, I think, for now, but a tremendous trend to watch.
Paul?
Agree.
All righty. Next.
Okay, the last one that we have for today comes from the Boston Consulting Group, and it talks about rethinking B2B software pricing in the agentic AI era.
Yeah, what do you think here, Luda?
Yeah. Another real disruption coming up. So we talk about AI agents a lot, right? And everybody assumes that this is the case, that we will be using them more and more, and that's what's happening. The question is how are customers going to pay for it? So currently it's per usage, it's cost plus essentially, and people pushing back. So customers are pushing back. So if you scroll down, Ankash, to the graphic, the BCG introduces 5 pricing models and talks about pluses and minuses of how it's going to happen. But the takeaway is that is going to business outcomes. So, and now it's debating what's an outcome, what's completion, did it really do a good job or didn't it do a good job? So it's a debate, and the pricing would change accordingly. But as a result, if it were to go completely to the right, the margins of the software IT vendors will go down dramatically. So I think it's certainly a trend. It's certainly disruption. Not clear where it will come out. So I rated it important, if not essential.
Yeah, I rated it essential for this chart because I think it's important for people to understand 2 things: the kinds of pricing models and the little thing down the bottom, what the trend is. Anyway, that's where I was on it. What do you think here, Vivek?
Yeah, I was important for this exactly the same reasons you and Luda mentioned. I'm going to send this to my procurement team. I want them to push the vendors to really look at outcomes, especially these large consulting firms, in that to deliver on the strategy with outcomes. So absolutely important.
So Vivek, why not essential?
I think I didn't see a good use case associated with it. I'd like to see a couple in practice that would make it essential, because then you know.
You deal with the use case. Your pricing folks tell them to go.
Right. Every company, Vivek, has the same problem. They use those agents somewhere, right? It's a lot currently.
Yeah. No, if I generate a use case, then that will be absolutely essential.
Okay, right.
Important, John.
Paul?
Yeah. You know, I actually want to throw up when I hear outcome-based pricing here.
Yeah.
We've been through this. I spent 5 years in energy management. Hey, we're going to share the energy cost savings here. That didn't work here. We went a decade of this. How do you measure it? You know, oh, John, you can have free email. I just want 10% of every sale you do here.
Yeah.
What's considered a sale? So I think it's all a bunch of BS. We've been through this way before. And I think it's a complete waste of time to talk about outcome-based pricing here, because it hasn't worked in any other markets. And somehow we think somehow AI is so special that corporate procurement is now going to give, you know, Pfizer is going to now. Anyway, I think it's really, really naive.
I agree with you, Paul. We've been through this before, and I was reading it and chuckling to myself that I don't think it will go to the right at all. But it will settle someplace. But it is pushing. See, currently the IT vendors put in the little AI agent and charge for it, right? It wouldn't stay. So it's questioning the value, and it's questioning how you orchestrate how do you deliver AI agents into the marketplace.
When there's variable cost, it's real. I understand that, but we've seen this before with minutes and cell phones and everything else.
So
Yeah.
you would rate it optional. Just forget about it.
At the end of the day, and I'm surprised BCG is this naive because they're usually good at this stuff. it comes down to market power. If there's value created,
Mhm.
if you don't have the market power to extract it from the end user, you're not going to get it.
No.
And this does not talk about market power. And so you look at Monsanto; they've got tremendous market power, and they were able to, through their seed stuff, they can. If you're a farmer and Monsanto genetically modified seed blows into your field and starts to grow, you have to pay Monsanto. Okay, that's outcome-based pricing with market power because it's such a concentrated market. You try to pull that stuff with GE, good luck. Anyway, and BCG should know better. So,
So what's
I'm
the
going to give it an important because of the data and the trends. I'm skeptical about the trends, but let's go for important. All right, tote board. Any announcements from everybody?
Coming right up, John.
Nope, no announcements.
Right now, biggest announcement: a week from now, we're doing our LinkedIn Live on our Update Buyer's Guide, which is a lot of great feedback. So join us noon Eastern for that, and you can sign up on our company website and LinkedIn.
Yes, love to have you there. All right, 2 essentials, 2 importance, and 2 optionals. Very balanced day. All right, everybody, have a great AI day. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye-bye now.